Today's guest is an award-winning coach who's helped over 500 clients achieve life-changing results since entering the industry in 2020. He has conquered his own weight loss journey, losing a massive 70 kilos. He underwent open heart surgery and within 2 weeks launched his own coaching business and was later awarded Coach of the Year in 2022, where he was recognized for his cutting-edge approach to mindset and behavior change. Now he helps other online coaches level up their coaching skills so they can deliver better results for their own clients. And I can vouch for this guy. This guy has personally helped me take my coaching to the next level. So if you're a coach who's looking to improve their service and their delivery and actually impact your clients on a deeper level, make sure you stay tuned. Lewis, glad to have you here, bro.
I'm buzzing to be here, mate, to be honest.
This is going to be fucking sick.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. I've always known you as a coach guy, yeah? The coach. Who were you before you got into coaching? What was that lifestyle like?
Oh, it was a fucking nightmare. Maybe not as much of a nightmare as you.
Maybe not.
Yeah. So I don't even know where to start, really. As a kid, I was never really like cool, never really popular, always a bit on the outskirts, on the outside of like popular groups, bullied a little bit for my weight and for thinking back, just being a bit weird, really. Just a bit of a weird kid. Nothing like sinister or anything like that, just a bit weird. As I got older, continued to get bigger, started to get into sport a little bit more. So playing rugby, never to an amazing standard, but enough to the point where I started to learn that I could handle myself a little bit.
Sick.
And then when I went to college, I completely got to... So basically, at my school, you could stay on at school at sixth form or you could go to college. I chose to go to college and I just basically got the opportunity then to reinvent myself for the first time. So became somebody different, not intentionally. I was just...
You developed essentially,
Yeah, and I think there was probably a conscious thing of I don't want to be the same person that I've been for the last 5 years because that was shit. So I became a little bit more popular, not through trying, just naturally playing rugby, captaining the rugby team, getting to know more people.
Okay. So there's no conscious effort like, I'm going to become this person. It just kind of happened, or you found interest that kind of molded it. Is that right?
I think so. And I also think that so I'm from Maltby, a tiny little village. It was one of the last working pit villages in the UK. So just to give you an idea of like the type of people, real like salt of the earth, hardworking, that sort of thing. Then when I went to Rotherham College, Thomas Rotherham College, it's like an amalgamation of all of the different surrounding villages. So it broadened my horizons. And I think also people that were more likely to go to college were also a bit more open-minded.
Of course, yeah.
So I didn't consciously change anything. I was still a weirdo, but there was loads of weirdos.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden it's like, right, okay, sound like there's more people like me. And we ended up creating a group of friends from probably 8 or 9 different schools of obviously you all get to meet each other. So yeah, it was mint. Like college was a good 2 years. Playing rugby, learning to drive, all of that sort of stuff you're doing at 17, 18. And made a conscious decision as I went into my second year of college. I was studying psychology, sports psychology, biology, sports.
So that's been prevalent. Like I thought that's something you got into later on. So that's been prevalent like from early on, really.
It was, but again, it was one of those things that I knew I wanted to do sports. I knew I wanted to do English language. I like writing. And I kind of didn't have any ideas what I wanted to do for the second 2 subjects. You have to choose 4, right? So on a day at the college, a visit to the college, they were like, oh, well, English language and sports, these things pair well. So psychology pairs well with the sports.
Got you, okay.
And biology ties in well. And if you do this combination of subjects, you could open up all these career pathways.
Got you, okay.
So again, that's what I was doing, but I fucking hated it. I hated everything about the studying. I was always... When I was a kid, even like GCSEs, A-levels, even at uni, I'm really good at exams. I'm just shit when it comes to coursework. So like being under pressure,
back to the wall shit.
I love it.
Yeah.
Going out of my own way to write fucking 2,500, which in the grand scheme of things is nothing, shit at it. So I'd made a decision in the second year of higher education, so college, that just weren't for me. So I continued playing rugby, captain in the rugby team. I'd just split up with my childhood sweetheart, whatever. So girls were a thing. Going out became a thing. Like I just turned 18, just passed my driving test, and I became a bit of a knobhead, to be honest.
I think it's a rite of passage, to be honest with you. I think every young man kind of transitioned from adolescence into being a teenager into being a man. I was gonna say, they go through that stage, man.
I think you think you're a man.
Yeah.
And like, if I met me now, like me then, now, I'd be like, what a fucking knob. Like you
Probably give him
are.
a slap, wouldn't you?
Yeah, in it. Like I'd started working at this bar. I was working behind the bar, so I was surrounded by like the door staff and that. And
Yeah.
typical 18-year-old kid. I'd lost a little bit of weight by that point. I was again started training in the gym, wanted to be surrounded, and the kid that I'd been on the outcast, like on the outsides of like society, the cool kids,
Yeah.
now getting to knock about with like bouncers and stuff. You know, the typical puffing my chest out,
Yeah.
like going on the night. We'd finish at the bar at like midnight, and we'd go out downtown and just being a bit of a dick, if I'm being perfectly honest, with in all areas, in all aspects.
Yeah.
And then basically what happened is I was like, I'm not going to college, but a lot of my friends had left Maltby and gone to university. Sorry, I'm not going to university. And I came to Manchester on a freshers' night out, which is like the first week when you just go to uni and it's fucking chaos. And one of my friends had come to either uni or MMU, I don't know. And I stayed in Manchester for a couple of nights and went on a couple of nights out. I remember going back to my mum and dad and being like, I'm going uni. And they were like,
could a couple
what?
nights out.
Yeah.
Could you enjoyed it?
In it, yeah. And they were like, what? And I was like, yeah, I don't know how. I don't know what I'm going to study, but I'm going Manchester. And it wasn't even I'm going uni. It was I'm going Manchester. Yeah. So the following year, I went through what's called clearing, which is where basically after they've accepted everybody's people have got the grades and they've been accepted, any spare spaces go on and you can get access to them through clearing. So you don't need the grade. I mean, I got a D, a C and an E at A-level, fucking shit. But managed to get enough points to get into MMU to study events management. And again, that was the next opportunity that I got to just kind of like reinvent myself. And that time I'd started DJing by this point. I'd started playing American football. I was very handy at American football.
Yeah. Because I wanted to ask you that, like, where did, because American football isn't like, I've got to read this out on, but it's not commonplace for somebody to think, I'm going to get into American football. So was it like rugby and then you kind of fell into that?
So what it was is, I mean, at least when I started playing, so I'm nearly 35 now, so it was a while ago, but I don't know if it's the same. You can't play or couldn't play contact American football in the UK until you're 16 years old.
Okay.
Helmets, brain development, brain injury, all that sort of stuff, health and safety, which is mad considering kids in America are playing it from like 6, 7, 8, right? So I'd played rugby. Again, I wasn't great at rugby. I liked the contact, I liked the violence, I liked that side of things, but I was never the most athletic kid. My dad had played American football in the 80s when it was massive, like league was sponsored by Budweiser, getting televised and stuff like that. So I'd always been around it. I'd been to watch my dad coach American football. Even as a kid, I remember that the team that he coached had won like a national championship and I was like fucking water boy and stuff like that. So
you've been around it?
Yeah. But he never forced me into it. It was never like, you need to go and do this. I was like, do you know what? It was actually a friend of mine at college who was playing for a team. He'd just started playing for a team in Sheffield and he was like, you should come and give this a go. I think you'd be, again, I was decent at throwing my weight around.
Yeah.
You should come and give this a go. And I remember I went to one training session. It was like, that was fucking
that was
it.
you.
I was like, I've got no desire to play rugby anymore. So it was pretty much, I stopped playing rugby at 16. I played those 2 more seasons at college, but I didn't play club rugby anymore. Started playing American football and just got very good very quick because I think one of the things that was holding me back at rugby was my size and my athleticism or lack of athleticism. In American football, there's a position for everybody.
Yeah.
There's like, you've got your big guys on your line.
What was your role on that pitch?
So I started out as defensive lineman and then I played a little bit of linebacker. So basically anything front kind of 2 lines of defense, go do whatever you need to do, smash a quarterback, make the tackle on the running back, read the O-line. So it was very much just like controlled, they call it like controlled aggression. So it's, I don't know if you know much about American football. Everyone's like, so everyone's like, it's stop-start, it takes ages. The reason that it takes ages is because there's a play which lasts like 8 to 10 seconds at 100%, and then you get a rest. So it's like fucking perfect for me. That was like complete power side of thing, no endurance. And I loved it. So when I went to university, I then started captaining the uni team. I'd started DJing, studying events management, which is basically glorified fucking party planning. And again, reinvented myself again. First couple of years getting into all sorts of tussles on nights out and after nights out and stuff like that. And then, it just went through there. I graduated. I managed to scrape through fuck knows how with a 2-1. Kept DJing, kept working in hospitality. And then I went into corporate for 6 months. And me and Maria actually drove past where the office was the other day. And I was like, I spent 6 months here. Basically, I went through a graduate scheme into IT, business to business software sales.
How did that go for you?
Oh, I fucking hated it, bro. Literally. I hated everything about it. So basically calling businesses to try and find out, my job was find out how many members of staff they've got, what software they need, what software they use, and if we can sell them an upgrade. And that was it. It was like,
that sounds
literally
boring as fuck.
Mate, I hated it. And it became very evident that even then I wasn't great at the selling side of things. I was great at talking to people and I loved forming connections. Just wasn't very good at selling. And within like month 3, so it was a 6 month, what do they call it now? Probation, a 6 month probation period where it's like, in this first 6 months, we can let you go or you can leave, no questions asked. And I'd gone from earning £1,000 a month working part-time in hospitality to earning maybe £2,000 in just picking up the phone and ringing people.
Yeah.
And halfway through it, I was like, fuck it. This is not me. It's definitely not me, but I'm just going to stay for the next 3 months and I'm just going to get the money to the point where like I'd make a note. So they used to monitor like call time, right? All the phones are programmed in. How long are you on the phone for? And I found 4 or 5 numbers that basically it would go straight to answer phone, but it would register as a call. So I'd sit there and I'd dial this number and I'd let it go for like 10 minutes and I'd just sit there in silence, just making it look like I'm doing work on the computer. And my call time's racking up, like just so nobody would like bollock me.
Yeah.
Cashed a paycheck at the end, never once got commission. And I remember even then, and I still speak to one person from then now. And I remember even then I was looking around and I'm like, everyone's like late 30s, early 40s, terrible posture. I was, again, pretty overweight at the time, but real overweight, bald, staring at the screens, wearing glasses, grumpy, and I'm just like,
And you looked at them and thought, "Fuck!"
I was like, it's just not me.
Yeah, I don't want to end up like these guys.
It's just not me. And people are like killing themselves to make commission for an extra 500 quid in the paycheck. And I'm like, even then, I was like, I'm not about money. It was never been a driving factor for me. So I realized because I was miserable, I just wasn't going to do it. I didn't know what I was going to do instead, but it just so happened that a friend of mine that I used to DJ for, he used to run club nights, he'd just bought a bar with no idea how to run a bar. And obviously I'd worked in bars in management. It was like, do you want to run this bar for me? I was like, yeah. So we just made it work, like winged it for 2 years up to 2016, running this bar again, DJing, surrounded by alcohol, surrounded by partying, surrounded by drugs, surrounded by everything that came with it. And had, looking back, the fucking time of my life, but also being a bit of a knob until I moved to Australia. And 2016, I moved to Australia.
What brought that move into play?
Boredom. Boredom of what I was doing. I had already seen the ceiling. So again, at this point, I had no real ambition. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I would have settled for being a manager in hospitality, in a bar, in a restaurant, something like that. I quite like the lifestyle of being able to go out. Again, you can walk into most bars, shake the doorman's hand on the way in, get a free drink, go and stand with the DJ. And
You thought you were cool
yeah,
doing that.
Yeah, literally. Spudding everybody, like literally fucking ridiculous, mate, looking back. But at the time it was mint. Like I really, really enjoyed it. So that was my ceiling and I was completely happy with it. My partner at the time, and again, we're both like, what the fuck do we do? Like, she'd just graduated, she'd worked full time and saved up a load of money. I'd saved up a load of money. So we're like, we'll go and travel the East Coast to Australia for 3 months and see what happens. So we traveled the East Coast to Australia for 3 months. Loved it, like loved being in the sun and that sort of stuff. We'd been smart enough to apply for like what they call a working holiday visa, so you can stay for up to a year. This is back when if you wanted to stay longer, you had to do farm work. So we'd enjoyed it that much that after the first 3 months, we went and did our farm work. So you have to work on a farm for 3 months to get your second year visa.
Fuck off.
Mate, it was mad. Like some of the stories from this, it was crazy.
That is nuts.
So we'd done that,
That's
and then
nuts.
we ended up like moving around and finding different farm jobs and stuff like that. And I really landed on my feet, and I got this tractor driving job, and everybody else was like, quite literally. So worked on an almond farm. I know more about almonds and farming than is probably normal. Worked on an almond farm, and a lot of the other backpackers have got jobs basically hitting almond trees with bamboo sticks, to knock the almonds off. Like literal, like.
That's
I don't want to say slave labor because that's a ridiculous term, but ridiculous. Like the
Yeah.
amount of money that they weren't getting paid to do 14-hour shifts in the blazing hot
To
sun
basically
and
stay in the
stuff like that.
country, innit?
Essentially, yeah. And you're in, by this time, you're in a working hostel. You are paying the hostel rent, but it's more expensive than a normal hostel because they work as an agency to find you work. So you get into one of these working hostels, you start paying the rent, and if you're not making the money, they've got you bent over a barrel.
That is slavery. I'll say it.
They've changed it now. You don't have to do this anymore. So,
Oh, okay.
but anyway, so I'd got this job, and we went to this almond farm, and there was like a few tractor driving jobs, and anybody could put themselves forward for it, and I put myself forward for it, and they were like, "Can you drive a tractor?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm from Yorkshire." But that was the test.
That's a resume.
Passed the test.
That's a CV.
Passed the test. So I got this tractor driving job, and then I ended up staying 5 months because I was doing 14-hour days, 6 days a week. I was earning the equivalent of $2,000. So it was $2,500 a week, which is like 1,200 quid a week.
Okay.
Just stacking cash. And I stayed. I was like, I've done my 3 months. I'm staying until the end of the harvest. I'm just stacking cash, and I'm going to go and live like a king.
Yeah.
Didn't really live like a king because Australia is quite expensive. So finished that. Went to Melbourne, and then basically found out that a friend of mine from England had played for an American football team in Australia.
Sick. Okay.
And he was like, "Go out and check it out." I was like, "I've got no intention of playing. I'm on holiday." I'm very much in that mindset. And I went to one game, and the standard was like unreal. There's like, which blows my mind. It's American football in Australia, in like a little remote country, say remote country. It's out in the middle of nowhere. The standard was unreal because they've got a lot of like ex-rugby league players, a lot of Polynesian lads who are the fucking scariest people that you've ever met in your life, like big and fast and stuff like that. And that was it. I was hooked. Again, like not by American football, but by the team. So I stayed over there an extra year, captained the team, played for state, like did everything that came with it. We're flying. There was a state tournament where we're flying around the country playing sport. It's being broadcast. It's mad.
Sick.
So like real.
So how did you get to being at the stage where you needed to lose 70 kilos? How did that come about?
Yeah. I loved it.
Because by the sounds of it, you're pretty active. You're on the farm. You're doing that sort of shit. You're playing the American football. That's an active lifestyle. Obviously, you might be partying a little bit, but 70 kilos is a fucking... It's a human being.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so I was 152 kilos at my heaviest. And that was actually when I got back to England. So I was probably around 130 in Australia. But again, training twice a week for either normal team, league team or state team. Then also training on top of it in the gym and shit like that. Very active, but yeah, partying, eating, etc., etc., etc. Then there's a weird sequence of events. So obviously I've got this thing with my heart. If anybody can hear the clicking on the microphone, it's literally a mechanical valve in my heart. So I'm going to give you the whistle stop version. And then if you want to dive into it, just stop because it can drag on. So woke up one morning, ready for state training, and tried to say a sentence to my ex-partner, my partner at the time. And all the words came out in the wrong order. And I was like, all right, that's weird. So then I tried to say the sentence again to her, and all the words came out in a different order, but still not the right order. And straight away, she was like, hospital, like right now.
That's fucked.
Yeah, very, very odd.
That's scary.
I'll be honest, it was. And then like it's happened it's happened on a smaller level a few times since, and I'll come into that. So straight to hospital, they're like, right, we basically, you're a big lad, you're fairly active, you're playing intense sport, you're under a lot of stress. There's also the threat of like hits to the head and stuff like that. So we need to basically do essentially a full body MOT and find out what's going on. I didn't know at the time, but it turned out afterwards they were looking for, I think it's called a miniature stroke or a minor stroke. I can't remember the actual terminology, which makes sense with the speech thing. So they had me do 6 tests, fMRI. So they looked at the brain, the heart, a Doppler, which is like the arteries in your neck, all these different things. And they basically pulled me in and were like, right, okay. And I remember the doctor, Dr. David Eisen, I'll never forget his name because he could have fucking killed me with the guidance that he gave me. And I've got his doctor's notes since. He basically pulled me in and he said, the good news is, as you just said, is like, you're the fittest fat guy we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like your blood pressure is fine, your arteries are perfectly healthy, you're good. Apart from, we've found this thing which isn't related to the speech thing. You've got a bicuspid valve. So basically the main valve, bicuspid aortic valve, the main valve that pumps blood out to the rest of your body has got 2 parts instead of 3. It's not working properly. It's regurgitating blood back into your heart and it's developed into an aneurysm. So is that right, sound? So what does that mean? He was like, well, you're otherwise fit, you're otherwise healthy, keep playing. So I was like, right, sound. medical professionals told me to keep playing. So it then transpires that eventually I found out that it's very similar to, you see, when Premiership footballers drop dead and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. So faulty valve.
So hold on, you've had the doctor told you you've got this thing, but it's kind of okay.
You're good,
Just crack on.
Yeah, you're good. You crack on.
So there was no moment where you thought, I'm fucked here.
Nothing. Because again, mate, you take the authority at the word, or I did.
Mm-hmm.
So I played a season for State. I played another season for the team in Australia. Moved back to England at the end of my visa. Had to go through the NHS to basically register what was happening, and obviously because of the wait times and stuff like that, played another season in England with this thing in my chest. Got bigger when I got back to England, because again, partying or stuff like that. Less active lifestyle. Obviously in Australia, you're out all the time and stuff like that. And yeah, it turns out it was the same thing that a lot of like Premiership footballers die with. Basically, the threat was, because of the aneurysm in my heart, if my blood pressure had spiked up, it would have ruptured and it's game over. Like,
you're done.
You're done. Like end of chat. So yeah, I'd had this guidance, and I only found that out in November of 2000 and what year are we now? November of 2019, when basically I'd been back through the NHS. They pulled me straight in. They were like, you are, the phrase they used was borderline intervention. We need to sort this shit out. You are eventually going to need open heart surgery. You're at risk of sudden death, and et cetera, et cetera.
At that moment, what was in your mind then? Because you've gone from being kind of having a minor scare, I've got this thing that's wrong with me, but I can crack on, to someone telling you, listen, mate, you're fucked.
Yeah, so the first couple of weeks were really rough. Really, really rough. Just to go back to the earlier question, this has still got nothing to do with the weight loss. The weight loss was a weird moment that I had at a festival. Like, I'd already started losing the weight. It was nothing to do with the heart. Yeah, it was rough for a couple of weeks. So basically what had happened is I'd finished the season. So I'd literally finished, it was like the last game was in August or something like that. Found out in the November. It was like, no more sport, no more gym, no more nothing, no more anything fun where there's a risk of your blood pressure increasing, you're done, like zero. So it was really, really rough. I went through the whole kind of like, why me? This is shit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I wasn't very self-aware at that point. So I'd not really started doing any work into mindset, personal development, anything like that. But I've always been pretty good with personal responsibility and like figuring out what I can do and what I can control. So a lot of the things that I talk about now, and a lot of my approaches to things of like the circles of control, which I talk about all the time.
Yeah, we'll dig into that in a bit.
Yeah, of course. I've always been there, but never conscious. And it was actually a conversation with my ex-partner. And I remember we were driving down to her parents for Christmas, and we were talking about it, and she was like, you're being a bit of a dick, you know? And it was very, very matter of fact. And I was like, oh shit, yeah, I am. Like, I'm not doing anything to help myself. I'm probably not making things worse, but I'm not, I've turned into a bit of a victim about it. And I'm not taking, I've always been the one I like to be in control. I like to be taking the fight to it. I like things to be on my terms, sometimes to a detriment. And it was a very quick realization, like, okay, shit, come on. Like, what? Come on, you need to do something.
Fix up, yeah.
Yeah. So I was already on that weight loss journey. And I just threw myself into that. I just really, really threw myself into that. But obviously because of the diagnosis, I couldn't train.
Yeah. So how did you manage to lose that amount of weight?
Diet.
All diet?
Literally all diet. Yeah, literally all diet. Diet and steps. That was it. So
anyone listening to this who's got like excuses about getting to the gym, the gym obviously helps.
For sure. And I am not saying to anybody do what I did. I'm not saying to anybody don't exercise.
Yeah.
Like
But that was your you controlling your diet, the controllables, like I said, steps.
That's exactly it.
That was your kind of way of taking back control and ownership of the situation.
Yeah. So I'd found out, obviously I knew I'd got this thing, so I'd already started the weight loss in the June of 2019. It was going well, and then it was like no more training. And obviously that was the thing that at the end of season, so in August, from August to season normally starts in like April, May, you train. You get your body right, you get ready for next season. So that was the thing that was keeping me sane at the time. It was the training. I was training really well. It was really strong. When people are like, oh, I got injured at my prime. Like, I literally did. Yeah. Like, I was just only getting better.
You had open heart surgery, so talk to me a bit about that.
Yeah, so the open heart surgery was 2 years later. Like there's a
So obviously, I thought these two periods were like close together or linked.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. No, so right. So in 2019, it was November 2019, I found out about the thing. Stopped all training, continued losing all the weight. The
Shit,
weight loss
okay.
took me from June of 2019 to June of 2020 was when I did like my first photo shoot. In that time, I'd lost 65 kilos. I went on to lose another 5 after that, just through weight and just through controlling my food and just through steps and looking after myself, basically. So I found out about this thing in 2019, and basically what happens then is they keep monitoring you. So every 3 months I was going in for an MRI where they were sticking me in the big, the big like tube.
Yeah.
Fucking horrible. Stuck in there for like 45 minutes at a time, filling me with like contrast dye so they could take pictures of my heart. And obviously because the weight was flying off me, it was actually slowing. Like they basically, when they're measuring the aneurysm, the language they use, which is bizarre to me, was like the aneurysm is progressing, but that meant it was getting worse. So if the aneurysm's getting bigger and they're measuring, I think it was 5.1 centimeters, 51 millimeters, where they were like, that's danger zone. When they first measured it, it was 47, and then it got to 49. So it had got worse, and then it stayed at 49 because I'd lost all this weight. I wasn't nothing high intensity anymore, no more training. Blood pressure was down, actually low, because I'd lost all this weight. I had perfect blood pressure at 150 kilos. I dropped down to 80 kilos and my blood pressure was low. So,
Got you.
so basically, it got to the point where they were like, you are no longer at immediate risk. You could still push for the surgery, but it's not an emergency. It's now an elective open heart surgery. Fucking mind-blowing, isn't it?
So you opted in for it?
So straight away, I was like, I want the surgery. And they were like, right, okay. And I had back and forth with different surgeons and different doctors. And I met the cardiac rehab team and all sorts of stuff to get all of the information. And for a while, they were like, well, actually, obviously, it's open heart surgery. There's a risk of death. There's a risk of infection. There's all of this stuff. We don't think you need it. So at their stances, get the surgery when you need it. You might be able to last until, somebody said to me, you might be able to last until like 65 until you need it. I'm like, what, living like this?
Fuck that.
Like, it's the sport and stuff that I always talk about and the gym and stuff that I always talk about. But the thing that really drilled the point home to me is I once met this surgeon, and he basically explained it to me. He was like, that's not the stuff that you need to be worrying about on a day-to-day basis. The stuff you need to be worrying about on a day-to-day basis. And he gave me this example. He said, if you wake up in the middle of the night and you need a piss, you just normally, you get up and you kind of like waddle to the toilet and keep your eyes closed trying to stay asleep. Is like, if you recognize that you need to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, you need to wake up and then you need to sit up. You need to sit there for a minute. And then you need to stand up for a minute.
Yeah, I just have a...
And then go to the
quality of life
bathroom.
kind of deteriorate.
Because obviously going from laid dormant to jumping up can spike your blood pressure, and that could have been enough. So straight away I was like, no, not a fucking chance. So going back to this idea of like, I like to control what I can control, and I like things to be on my terms, and I like to take the fight to things. They were very much like, you don't need it though. There's a risk of death. And I was like, I'm never going to be younger. I'm never going to be fitter. I'm never going to be lighter than I am right now. Get the fucking surgery done. And they were starting to come round to the idea, and then COVID kicked off. So then all of a sudden, all of these surgeries that are no longer emergency surgeries are getting pushed back. They're scared to bring anybody in because this is at the point where they thought it was going to wipe the planet out. They're scared to bring anybody in because everybody's ill and stuff like that. And it was literally back and forth. And I was having to meet with different people. And to the point where I remember meeting this one surgeon called Paul Waterworth. He changed my life. I remember my dad came with me for this appointment. He sat in the waiting room. He didn't come into the actual thing. And I sat in this waiting room. And I said to this guy, I was like, do you mind if I record this conversation? He was like, what do you mean? I was like, I've been having a lot of these conversations at the minute and I forget things. So do you mind if I just put my thing on record and like just get the audio? And we had this really good conversation about exactly what had happened, exactly what it meant, how it was affecting me and stuff like that. And this guy must be about 5'4", genuinely a tiny, tiny guy, but very matter of fact. And he talked to me like I was a piece of meat. And I know it sounds weird, but that's how to get through their job, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's something that needs fixing.
Making it objective, yeah.
And I remember I was having this conversation with him, and I asked him this one question, and basically it was this question that made me realise that I was like, just please do the fucking surgery for me. I said to him, what happens if on the day of the surgery you're having an off day? And he looked me dead in the face. He was like, that never happens. And I was like, right. And it was like, but if it was to happen, we'd let you know and we'd just push the surgery back. I was like, right, sound. And I always make the joke. I was like, I knew immediately. I was like, he's the guy that I want to have his hands inside me, like genuinely.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'll do it. It was like, I'll absolutely do the surgery. It was like, this is for him. Obviously, it's a routine thing. For me, it's terrifying. It was a 3% chance of death during the surgery, which everyone's like, oh, they're really good odds. I think the lowest they're allowed to give you is 2%.
Until you're in that fucking situation.
But I don't know why my brain went here, right? It was like, it's a 3% chance of death. And my brain immediately went, if 3 out of every 100 planes
that's my brain just
crashed,
went, yeah.
Would you get on a flight?
Would you fuck?
So anyway, it had to be done. And I'd very much been like, I'm being in the driver's seat. I want this thing done. And it kept getting pushed back and kept getting pushed back. And then I got a phone call in November of 2021. So quite literally, like, my mental health was not the best. And that was the thing ultimately why this guy was like, I'll do the surgery for you. Like, it was affecting me. I remember he said he'd do the surgery. In the drive on the way back to my house, my dad was driving. It was the first time that I'd properly broke down. Like, just a wave of emotion. Right, I can finally get this fucking done.
Was that relief?
It was, yeah, it was. It was excitement. It was relief. It was, I'd not realised how much it had been weighing on me until somebody said that they were going to do it.
I can start to get my life back to where I wanted to be.
That was in 2020. So that was in 2020. It was another 18 months before I got the surgery done. Obviously, because it kept getting pushed back, it was no longer an emergency. And I got a phone call in November 2021 basically saying, which is a weird phone call because they told me that this might happen. And basically they said, we've got an opening for surgery on Monday. And I knew what that meant. That meant somebody that was meant to be having surgery is possibly now dead. So we've got an open. So it was a weird phone call as it was. Do you want open heart surgery? And that was the point where I was like, fuck, like shit
It's
myself,
real, yeah,
like really,
real.
really scared. Immediately, again, second time and only time that I broke down crying. Really, really scared. Late to the point where, mate, I laid on my living room floor crying. Like, it was terrifying. Rang my dad, rang my mate, one of my best mates at the time. And I was like, this is what they've said. And they were both like, get it fucking done. Like, you've literally been, it didn't take me long to bring myself round. And again, by this point, I'd been doing a lot of work on myself, really self-aware. So I rang them back and I was like, yeah, get it booked. So I was meant to be getting admitted on the Sunday morning and I was on my way to hospital and I got a phone call from the hospital and I was like, hello? And they're like, are you on your way to hospital? I was like, yeah, I literally live 5 minutes from the hospital. And they were like, we just want to let you know that Paul's having an off day. And I'm like, you fucking what? This guy that had told me that he'd be sound. And obviously because of COVID.
At least he kept to his end of the deal. He told you.
Yeah. So you get checked, you get admitted the day before. They keep you in, you have to fast and that sort of stuff, and you get the surgery the day after. So I was on my way to hospital to just chill, basically, get prepped for surgery, and they'd let me know the day before. But because of COVID at the time, I was having to shield, which meant couldn't go out, like couldn't see anybody, literally living in my house, having to quite literally live on fucking Deliveroo. Like you can't, because if you've got anything, they test you on the way in and they can't admit you. So they were like, we'll push it back another 3 days. And then I went in on the 1st, I had the surgery on the 2nd. This is where like I speak a lot about this and people make a big deal out of it, but it weren't a big deal to me. Like going in and getting the surgery, they told me, I'd known all along that it was going to be up to 3 months recovery. That's what they kept telling me. You're going to be bed bound. You're not going to be able to look after yourself. Up to 3 months. I had to move back with my mum and dad because I'd got a big dog, obviously a big open wound, can't be anything like that. Struggling to walk, etc., etc. And I walked out of hospital 4 days later. I was like, it sounds really weird to say. I'd built it up in my head to be something that was going to be really difficult, and I was really excited about it. Mm-hmm. It just weren't hard at all. I'm annoyed that it wasn't more challenging.
Yeah, I mean, it was that easy. You started Body and Brain 2 weeks later, right?
In it. Well, 13th I launched that. So I had open heart surgery on the 2nd, and I launched it on the 13th of December.
How did that come about?
So I'd been working for another company, and I'd stopped working for that company, and I was just kind of like servicing the clients that I got in the time being. And as I was having to go down the rabbit hole of personal development and self-awareness and identity for myself, it really started to bleed into my coaching. And the work that I'd started to do with clients, of course it was about calories and training and stuff like that, but that wasn't the stuff that was making the difference. But I didn't know anything about marketing. I didn't know anything about business. I'd worked for another company for 2 years. So I'd essentially had clients handed to me. So what that meant is that I'd spent 2 years getting really good at coaching without having to think about business or marketing, or I was doing content because it was Instagram, innit? You do content. But I'd never really had to have a message. I'd never really had to have something to sell, a program, like that sort of thing. And you have a lot of free time when you're laid in hospital. Like, and I was just thinking, and I took my journaling with me and just figuring things out in between, like fucking morphine naps. Like, do you know what I mean? Like admittedly some weird thoughts that were obviously clouded by the fucking painkillers and stuff like that. That turned out to be really productive. And I was like, I came up with a name. I contacted a company. I got the branding sorted very, very quickly. And I was like, this is the thing. Like, let's go. And I remember posting it. I was sat on my mum and dad's, they've got an armchair, sat in my mum and dad's living room. I posted this thing. I was like, here's the branding. This is what I'm doing. That was it. So, yeah.
How long was that running for, Body and Brain?
December the 13th, 2021. And I killed it off in June of 2023. So not as long as people think.
Yeah. Okay, and you made the transition into mindset and behavior change. What made you take that leap, or what made you pivot?
As in when I was running Body and Brain stuff?
Yeah.
Because
I think if you said before, you just killed it. Well, you give people a month's notice and then...
yeah. So I'd already very much gone in. That's why the whole idea was Body and Brain. It was still fat loss. It was still that side of thing. But I was layering the mindset in. So all of the tools you now know were guinea pigged on those people.
Got you.
Guinea pigged on myself. And I realised that was what was making the difference. So I was already doing it in a very, very big way. And a lot of my, I guess my approach was all around mindset. And this was when the word mindset was a bit of a buzzword and everybody was a mindset coach. And I'd started working with Paul. I'd start to see what coaching was more than what I thought it was. And then in 2022, let me just get this right. In June of 2022, I did a qualification with Paul, the coaching academy stuff, where that really taught me what coaching actually is. And how to elicit behavior change in people just by asking questions and sitting there and being hands off and influencing people just by, like again, asking questions. And it kind of got born in my, it was like a brainchild at that point. I was like, this is fucking sick, but nobody knows about this shit. Like nobody really knows. I'm surrounded by coaches. I'm working inside a separate business at the point. I've surrounded by 250 coaches on Zoom on a weekly basis.
I want to stop you there because you made a valid point a few months ago, and I was on one of your coaching calls, and you made the point that people who think the coaches aren't actually coaches, they're instructors. Where does that thought process come from?
So I get a bit ranty when I talk about this. No, so I'm just gonna,
because I completely fucking agree with it. But I was only made aware of this after I took the amplifier.
Yeah.
After I worked with you.
Yeah.
I was like, hold on, am I actually fucking coaching?
Yeah. So I think the thing to kind of preface all of this is that coaching's nothing to do with calories or training programs or making adjustments and stuff like that. And we think it is. I know there's a big differentiation between coach as a verb, as in to coach somebody, and coach as a noun. I am a coach. So, for example, I've played high-level sport, high-level American football. I've had incredible coaches that didn't do any coaching in its truest sense. I now coach American football myself. I coach the university team that I used to play for. I don't do any coaching. I tell people what to do. And I think what a lot of people need to understand about coaching is it actually came from the corporate world. It's a leadership style. It's a personnel development style. It's nothing to do with calories and training programs and telling people what to do. People still need that stuff. I needed that stuff. When I was working with my coach to lose all of the weight, I need to be told what to do because I didn't know and I needed to be held accountable. So I'm not downplaying that side of things, but the simplest way to think about it is if you are answering questions, you're giving information, you're instructing, you're telling people what to do. You are coaching when you are asking questions. It is the easiest way to separate it. There's a little bit of nuance, obviously, but for the sake of really making the point. So a lot of coaches will set calories, will write training programs, will give the best tailored programs in the world. That's sick. People need that. That changes people's lives. It changed my life. They'll make weekly adjustments, but they won't do any coaching. They won't ask the questions. They won't sit in a conversation like this and ask a question and shut the fuck up. they'll try and over deliver. They'll try and give value. They'll try and tell they'll try and tell you the information, not realizing that you know what to do. Every single coach has heard the phrase, I know what to do, I'm just not doing it. So at that point, stop giving them information.
That's when the coaching comes into play.
Literally.
I've had coaches as well. And I think with a certain sort of client, say for example, you got a bodybuilding coach, they have a lot of knowledge. But then again, it's like, am I going to listen to a 20-minute Loom video every week? No. Is that really coaching? No, because you just give me a set of instructions. And the more I got into building my business, the less that became viable. I'm not willing to do, should I say, what you're asking me to, because it doesn't fit into my life. That's when the coaching element comes into, like, what are you able to do? What are you willing to do? Those sorts of questions are key. And I think a lot of coaches miss that part of actually communicating and asking the right fucking question. And it completely changed what I do when I signed up to the Amplifier. Absolutely changed the way that I saw coaching and what I delivered, and has essentially played it. I'm not just saying this because he's fucking sitting here. Played a massive part in my service and what I offer and my personal development. And that all come from the Amplifier. Now, in the Amplifier as it stands now, what is it that you do? What is it that you teach? And what transformation are you hoping to provide, A, for the coach, and second, for their clients?
Yeah, mate, that's a sick. And just quickly, like, watching you apply this stuff. I remember when you applied, full transparency. I remember when you joined the Amplifier, I said to Maria, I was like, we're either going to love each other or hate each other, because I'd seen the way that you were in your content and stuff like that. And I was like, there are a lot of coaches out there that don't want to hear what we're talking about now, because it makes them feel a little bit smaller or a little bit dumb or anything like that. And I do get that. But I remember saying to Maria then, I was like, we're going to love each other or fucking hate each other. And you turned out to be an absolute standout client. You've spoke at one of the events and stuff like that. So seeing you implement it has been absolutely mint. What I'm trying to do is, I kind of go back to me when I was 150 kilos of, I'd signed up with coaches before. I'd been given plans. I'd been written and delivered incredible tailored plans to my lifestyle that I'd just not been able to adhere to for whatever reason. And I'd always been left feeling like I was the issue, like I was broken, when in reality, it just wasn't realistic. The person knew nothing about behavior change. They knew nothing about adherence. They knew nothing about motivation. And I see that a lot in the fitness industry. So the reason that I kind of like created this thing is that the work that I was doing with my clients and the results that I was getting with my clients, and ultimately led me to get awarded the Coach of the Year award through Paul's thing, like, it was getting noticed. And I tried to figure out what's the difference. And it was this side of things. Like, I'm nothing. I've got a very basic level of knowledge when it comes to nutrition and training, but I'm getting better results than a lot of people that know everything about biomechanics and shit like that. Do you know what I mean? So I was trying to figure out what it was. What I'm trying to do now is add that string to people's bows, because there's a load of stats out there about coaching and about running a business and churn rate and retention and how many of your clients should be achieving the goals. And just for anybody watching, it's 82% of your clients should achieve their goal. And I think if people were honest with themselves and sat and looked at, let's say you've had 100 clients, did 82 clients achieve the goals? I don't think there's many coaches out there that could say yes. And then if you start to get really brutally honest of why, well, it was nothing to do with your training knowledge or nothing to do with your nutrition knowledge, because that's what got the clients that did get results, the results. So straight away, I'm like, it's blatantly obvious to me, objectively sat on the outside, what the difference is. And it's your coaching skill, actual coaching skill, not nutrition knowledge, behavior change, adherence, etc., motivation, all of the things that we cover. So initially it was launched just to help people. Initially it was a side hustle. Initially, yeah. I launched it.
I think I was on your second.
You did the second one.
The second one, yeah.
So the first one, it was a side hustle. I'd had so many people pecking me head about, what are you doing with these people? I was like, fuck it, I'll package it up. I'll sell it. I remember selling it. It was a 6-week course, 500 quid. 22 people signed up in 2 days, and I'd not even thought about building it. I was like, fuck, now I've got to build this thing.
Yeah.
And no, that's a lie. I had the tools, but I didn't have the slides. I didn't have anything, how it's going to be delivered. I didn't know the module breakdown. So I just built it a week at a time. quite literally. Like I'd deliver week 1, and then so that was on a Monday. On the Tuesday, I'd write next week's module.
Yeah.
And like halfway through it, I was getting that good feedback from the people that were doing it. I was like, this is it.
This is the one.
This is what I've wanted to talk about. I don't like talking about calories and nutrition. I don't like talking about training. It wasn't a big part of my life. It was kind of what I was doing by default. So I remember sending a text to, I had 32 clients at the time, all paying me a decent amount of money on recurring, sending a text to them all and being like, I've cancelled all your payments. I'm not doing this anymore. I was like, I'm one of those people that I need to deepen myself. I need to be, like I said earlier, at exam conditions, exam conditions, backs against the wall. So I said to them all, I said, thank you for everything. Like, you've actually given me something incredible, which is these tools. I know that they work now. I've got all of this social proof. I've got incredible results from everybody, but you are no longer my priority, if I'm being honest. And I think that if you're working with a coach, you should be their priority. I genuinely believe that. And you're no longer mine. So I wouldn't be living in alignment with my values and who I want to be if I did this. And I said goodbye to, it was just under it was between £7,500 and £8,000 on recurring. I just cancelled it all on Stripe.
Just killed it.
I just can't do that anymore. Like, and I only had 2 people complain. Everybody, I said, I'll coach you all for a month. I'll either get you ready to continue for the rest of your life on your own.
Find you somebody else.
Find you another coach. I gave loads of people. Maria took it so I was giving people clients and still maintain good relationships with pretty much all of those. But I just can't do this anymore. So I was like, right, okay. So the first course had finished. I had no income. Obviously, it was all paid up front. And I was like, right, now I need to really hit the nuclear button. And then you did the second one. So it was. So initially it was to give people that extra thing that they're missing, because there are so many incredible people out there, coaches, that want to help people. The thing that they're missing is something that's alien to them. A lot of coaches get into coaching because they love fitness. They love the gym. They're passionate about it. But they forget that they're not normal people. Like, you've been in the gym since 16 years old. This is part of your life.
It's just normal, yeah.
Susan, who works a 9 to 5, is nothing like you. She hates it. She fucking hates it. So your nutrition knowledge and your training knowledge will not get you anywhere. It's the stuff that you don't know about. And I genuinely spent time looking around and I couldn't find anything like this.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest with you, when I was on it, I was that not hesitant. What's the right word I'm looking for here? I didn't want other coaches to find out about it. That's how good it was. That's how good. I'm not gassing you.
No, I believe it.
I was like, this is like a secret fucking weapon.
Yeah.
Are you with me? It really does put you on a fucking different level. So that's how valuable it was for me. I was like, even like now, obviously you've grown massively since then, but at the time I was thinking, I hope fucking people don't get their hands on this. Yeah. That's how good it was. But, so to anyone listening to this, what Lewis is doing, once again, it's, as a coach, it fucking changes the way that you operate. It allowed me to enjoy what I was doing again, because, calories in, calories out, training plans, it's monotonous. Yeah. When you're actually working with people and you're conversing with people and actually helping them on a deeper level, that is what brings fulfillment for me anyway. So absolutely phenomenal. I know you're opening slots for one-to-one coaching.
Yeah, I mean,
what's that going to look like? Because I'm excited about that.
So this is very much, it's a fair way down the road. So, but it is definitely, because of what I do now, I've gone from coaching my clients, my body and brain clients, not the coaches, on a daily basis, coaching calls, conversations, to what I do now, which I fucking love. And I won't change what I'm doing now. It won't affect what I'm doing now. But the only real opportunity that I get to coach people now is on those Wednesday morning calls, is when they come to me with an issue. Coaches come to me now. So the way that it's changed now is that it's not just about your client anymore. It's delivered to you as the coach for your own personal development, for you to get out your own way. And then I teach you also how to adapt it for your clients. So it's kind of like, I guess, like dual pronged. But that's the only opportunity I get to actually coach people, is those Wednesday morning calls. And that's the thing that still I love, is the coaching side of it. Not the calories, as we've just established, but being able to empower people to think and act for themselves. And it's been sat in the back of my mind for a while of like, I definitely want only a small amount of people, maybe 10 people, and they'll all come from within the Amplifier. This is not something that I'm opening up to anybody, because I want people that already are bought into the idea of what coaching truly is. Like, imagine I opened it up to anybody and you get people that have got no idea what the stance is. It's just, I've worked too hard to have to butt heads with people, if that makes sense. So it will be very much, this is the worst answer ever because it'll be whatever you need it to be, which is what coaching truly is.
That's what coaching is, yeah.
Which is what coaching is. I genuinely believe with the skills and the qualifications and the work that I've done and the experience that I've got, I can coach anybody on anything.
I've seen you do it live. I think it was at Business and Banter. You give a speech
Shout
there.
out Tash.
Yeah.
Shout Tash asked, she asked a question.
Yeah, and it was phenomenal just to watch live.
Yeah.
It was really, really, like, when it comes to coaching, like you just said, say for example, you've got somebody who's got a problem in, I don't know, let's pick a random sort
You
of.
could come to me with an issue. Let's say you still had I'm going to use this because it's topical. You could still have a hang up about something that happened to you in prison.
Yeah.
And I could coach you through that.
Yeah.
I've never been to prison.
Yeah.
I have no idea what your life was like.
Yeah.
Your life experiences are completely different to mine. I could get you to a solution. I genuinely believe that. So I'm saying that now because I'm sat across the table from you, but that's what coaching is. So the reason that I'm so passionate about it is a lot of people are getting quote unquote results and then leaving the business and then either taking backward steps, which is completely normal, or I'm like, there's more that I can do with this person. When you learn to coach, you can coach people on anything. Like I was giving, because it's not giving advice. You're not telling people what to do.
It's allowing for somebody to arrive at an answer that they already know is there almost.
So, or helping them uncover that answer for themselves. So I was having conversations about relationships and work and business and family and I'm like, when you know how to coach, you ask questions.
I bet your phone pings off for people looking for advice just on random shit.
Yeah.
A lot.
Some people will get a phone call. Some people I'll just humor it.
Yeah.
Like, because some people, you know, when it's a friend, very rarely will you take that advice. And
I've experienced that myself.
And very rarely will I give advice. Like Maria hates it, mate. Maria hates it if we're out trying to have a conversation, and we've had conversations about it. And to be fair, this is something that I need to work on. Obviously, we're married. She doesn't need Coach Lewis all the time. Sometimes she'll come to me with a problem and straight away I'm asking questions. I'm like, fucking hell, let's get to the bottom of this.
Yeah.
'Cause I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
To be fair, that shows up in my personal life as well.
Yeah.
I go into coach mode. Like I want to resolve everything or help you resolve everything.
Yeah, people don't want it all the time, though.
They don't want it.
And that's something that I've got to learn. I know I've got to learn.
Sometimes people just want you to fucking listen. And that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
And not offer anything else.
Yeah.
Maria's laughing her head off.
Don't hold me to this. I know this is on film, but I'll work on it.
Yeah. So I want to dig into some of the things I've learned from you. Talk to me about the circle of control.
So have you read The Daily Stoic?
No, I haven't.
So basically it was kind of like when I first got into this whole area of personal development. The two books that everybody was shouting about was Atomic Habits and Daily Stoic. And Atomic Habits
I've read Atomic Habits, yeah.
It's a very good book,
yeah.
But it's almost like your entry level. And the Daily Stoic, what that is basically it's a 365 pages long. Every single page is got a date on the top of it. You're meant to read a page a day and blah, 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 blah. And it talks to you about like the Stoics, so like Marcus Aurelius, etc. And it gives you something that they've said and then expands on it. And I think it's Marcus Aurelius. I remember reading it. I got this book, right? And for maybe 3 years, I started it on January the 1st and I never got past like March. Do you know what I mean? Like reading a page in the morning. People I still see online coaches now still put the page every single day on the story. I'm like, come on, mate.
Low enough.
Yeah. But anyway, so it mentioned this thing and that was my first kind of like introduction to like stoicism and stuff like that. And it mentioned this idea of like basically only concerning yourself with things that you can control and basically shutting out and forgetting about everything else. And like, I kind of like that principle, but it don't work in reality. And obviously the Stoics were, 2,000 years ago, however long ago they were, shit's different these days. It's a different environment. But I do like the idea of controlling the controllables. And I really do like that. And I kind of like came up with this idea of, right, I'm very visual with things, like you've seen a lot of the models inside the Amplifier. And it's as simple as 3 circles inside each other. Your inner circle is the circle of control, and that's everything that you have complete
Have you got
control.
that in a PDF?
I can create one.
I'll put it under in the description.
It's really simple. It looks like a bullseye. That's
Yeah.
it. It's literally that's it. But it's just like, it's the way that I explain it to myself of like your inner circle is the things that only you have control over. So what you say, what you do, what you wear, what you eat, things that people don't like to admit, what you think, you are how you feel, you're in complete control over all of those things at all times. outside of that, in like the Marcus Aurelius school of thought, is like everything else. But again, it's not that simple, I don't think. So there's outside of that, there's a circle of influence, which is the things that you have some say in, but are not completely your control. So the workload that your boss is putting on you, if you've got a 9 to 5, you don't get to decide that, but you do have some say in it. It's a conversation, or where you and your partner are going to go on holiday, right? You have some say in that, but it's not just your decision. And then outside of that is just a circle of awareness, and that's everything else that you need to be aware of.
Yeah.
So the weather,
stuff you can't control.
The stuff that you can't control. And this is something that I was kind of like, I was coming up with this idea while I was trying to figure out what I could do, because I'd had all these things taken away from me. You can't train anymore. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't do that. I was like, well, what can I do? Like, what can I focus on? I can focus on my thoughts, and I can focus on, right. So that's kind of like where it came from with me. And then as I started to read more about it, it's actually a really popular idea. I think it's called the locus of control. I don't know. So there are other people that talk about it, just don't frame it the way that I do. And the reason that I like this is people spend so long getting bogged down and stressed out by things that are in their circle of awareness, the weather,
everything
the
else,
traffic.
Yeah.
Mate, I know people that if their football team lost on a Sunday, they'd be a cunt for the next 5 days. Because
that blows my mind.
But I also know people that, I'm going to out Maria. Maria's one of them, that know everything about that, what's going on in celebrities' lives, and it'll impact them.
Yeah, I don't understand that. It's one of my pet peeves. If you come to me like, oh, did you see so-and-so done this? I'm like, motherfucker, they don't know your name.
My Instagram and my Instagram and my Facebook are completely different. My Instagram is now filled with people from what I do now.
Yeah.
My Facebook's still a lot of people that I've grown up with. I've got fucking, 4,000 friends on there. I can't remember, not being a dick, I can't remember half of them. And I see the names and I'm like, don't know who you are. But people still get annoyed about what's happening on Love Island on my Facebook. And I'm like, it blows my mind. So I think a lot of people disempower themselves and give their power away by focusing on shit that they can't control.
I think for a lot of people, it's too painful to address their own lives. So they look at other people, other celebrities or whatever's on TV, because addressing your own life, first of all, you got to get real.
Yeah.
And that's painful in itself. And then you got to take action, which is another set of pain.
Even outside of the celebrity stuff, like use traffic or the weather.
Anything. Right? People, it's the blame game, and it can be like, I don't know, shit's too expensive now, or it's too risky, or it's just the blame game can be. Oh, I was brought up this way.
Yeah.
I had this trauma go on early in my life, but there's always somebody out there who's experienced the same shit, even worse, who's making it happen.
Yeah.
So it just becomes a way out, and it's just another thing to talk about. And I struggle with this. When people come to me with small talk, I can't do it. I literally can't. Honestly, I can't do it. It's like, even football, like my family's, my brother, both of my brothers and my dad, football mad. I could not give a fuck. I could not give a fuck because, like I said, the guy on the pitch, whoever it is, I don't even know who fucking plays for Man United these days, he does not know I exist.
Yeah.
I am not going to care if he scored on a pitch.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me.
I kind of get the excitement side of things, and genuinely, I see people that are fanatical about things, and I'm like, good for them.
Yeah,
like good for them. They've got something that brings them joy. The thing that kind of I don't understand is when it negatively affects people. So like, my team keeps losing on a Sunday, it's ruining my week. Stop fucking watching it. Turn it off. Right. The thing that, like, an example that I always like to give is I spent like a week in Norway when I was recovering from the surgery, and just went away on a cruise and all that sort of shit. And I remember when I went on this guide with this tour guide, and he was talking to us about the weather in Norway. It rains all the time, and they have 19 different words to describe rain and stuff like that. And it's fantastic. And he said, but still, with the bad rain and all these things, it's one of the happiest places in the world. And they have this like saying of there is no such thing as bad weather, only a bad choice of clothes.
Sick.
And I was like,
sick.
That's fucking mint. So it doesn't matter if it's raining, wear a better coat. Like, so don't focus on what you can't control. What can you control? The traffic's a nightmare. Well, if it's a nightmare every day, just leave earlier. Like, stop complaining about it.
Mm-hmm.
And there are real things that happen that are happening in people's lives that are negative and deserve attention, and you can complain about. But I think the bar is really low for what people allow that to be. So the circles of control for me always brings me back to what can I control in this situation? Because if I focus on that, I've got nobody to blame but me. Some people find that really disempowering. For me, it's the most empowering thing in the world.
Sick. I've actually built on your circles of control a little bit. Is the second circle is influence. And I think as a coach, you have to live in that circle as well. You have to be really good in that circle as well. And being able to do that is going to be the key factor. Like people, I think the word influencer and influencer has got a bit of a bad rep, but I think a good coach must be an influencer. Mm-hmm. You have to learn how the fuck to influence. So first of all, have your own shit together as a coach, but then influence, learning that. Is there anything that you can kind of help coaches in regards to building their influence with their clients? Because I think that's the missing part, because I'm sure you hear it a lot with, they just don't listen to what I do.
Yeah.
What I say, should I say? Yeah.
So first of all, stop telling them what to do then. If they're not listening, you saying it in a different way, maybe a little bit firmer, it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. That's where coaching comes in. That's where asking questions comes in. But I think the question that you're actually asking is something that I'm massive on as well, is if you, I have this saying, I don't know where it came from. Maybe it's me. I don't know. If you want people to follow you, you need to be somebody worth following. Like if you want to lead people, when you're coaching people, again, coaching came from leadership and management. You are a leader. If you want your clients to follow you and listen to your advice and do what you are telling them to, you have to be somebody worth following. Mm-hmm. I see a lot of coaches at the minute that are not leading by example. And this is such a big topic in the fitness industry at the minute. It's like, do you need to be shredded? I'm not talking about that. Like,
are you living the life?
Are you walking the walk? Mm-hmm. Like, you don't have to, I don't fucking care if you're shredded. I genuinely could not care less. But are you living the lifestyle that you are asking your clients to live? Because if you can't get out your own fucking way, how the fuck is anybody meant to believe that you can help them get out of theirs?
Exactly.
Like if you aren't doing, so let's look at my coaches, right? I'm working with Paul, and I've worked with Paul since 2021, and I work with Greg, who you met, who would be fucking sick for this podcast, by the way.
Hit him up for me.
He'd be sick for this podcast. No, I actually will remind me after. But I look at those two people, they're the two people that I'm working with currently, but I've had stages in my life where I've got 4 different coaches that help me with 4 different things. And every single one of them, it's because they're doing what I want to do. They're in whatever area that they're helping. Yeah, in whatever area I want helping, they're already doing the thing. And I can see them and I'm like, it's possible. What are they doing? Even you mentioned something, you used the phrase a couple of weeks ago,
proximity to power.
Exactly.
That's what I said to Paul. So me and Luce are on the same mentorship, and I was speaking to him, or a setter, and I said to him, I go, look, I want his fucking time, because I'm of the belief of buying the fucking blueprint. Mm-hmm. Just buy the fucking blueprint. Don't care what it costs. If it's going to save you time, it's going to save you going through trialing things and failing and fixing things and figuring out. Just buy the fucking blueprint. I ain't got time to waste, and that's a massive belief of mine. Being close to the people who are making it happen is key.
You have to be willing to do the shit though.
Yeah, like, that's fine. Yeah. I'm willing to do.
No, I know you are. But going back to this idea of how can people influence their clients, is every communication that you have with your clients should leave them wanting to do something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even if it's not about the thing, they should feel.
I've actually come up with a framework for it. So there's four pillars. I've got it from a book. Can't remember the book, but this is what I teach to the business owners that I coach. Because sometimes they feel like they haven't got the influence that they want, whether it's the team or the missus or whatever it might be, okay? Number one, you got to model the behavior that you're asking them for. If you're not modeling the behavior, you're fucked. Second is you've got to motivate them. You've got to see something in them that they can't see for themselves, okay? So bringing that out of them. The third pillar is mentorship, okay? That's where you're allowing them to make decisions or teaching them how to make decisions on their own. That's the coaching element.
Yeah.
The final element, this is where you create a mass movement. Like, I'll quote your shit. Why? Because you've influenced me. The fourth pillar is multiply, is where you've taught it that well to somebody, they then go and teach it somebody else.
Yeah.
That's when you create fucking impact. That's when not only the people who you're working with directly are impacted, their family members, the people at work. That's massive.
I was just going to say this about what you're doing now, and one of the things that I love what you're love about what you're doing now is you will be changing the lives of the kids, the partners, maybe without you even knowing.
No, and I know exactly what I'm doing, and I know the things that I teach are for that reason, because as much as it is like the mission that I'm working towards is to help men to become as capable as possible so society benefits, not for themselves, the kids, the missus, every single person that they come into contact with. I want their lives to be enriched by meeting this person who's worked with me.
So you work with some, to my understanding, some fairly high flyers.
Yeah.
How have you found, I know this is your podcast, I'm asking the questions now. This is my show and I'm only kidding. How have you found working with them and communicating that framework with them, with people that have maybe, and again, what I'm getting at is this whole idea of you don't have to have done the thing to be able to coach people, that have maybe done bigger, quote unquote, things than you?
They are way more open-minded. They're way more open-minded. They understand that they haven't got it all figured out. The people I have got people that I coach that they struggle with this initially, is they've got to where they have by doing their own thing, but they're sometimes they're blind to taking advice from somebody who isn't in their exact field. And
you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And that's the thing. I can think of one person in particular. I think I asked Amy Porter on when she delivered that presentation.
Oh yeah.
About this person. But even then, it's like having the tough conversations as to why the fuck have you hired me? Because you can't figure shit out on your own, and you need somebody who's going to guide you and manage you essentially. The same way you manage your team, you manage your staff, so on and so forth. You need somebody to manage you.
So what's the biggest differentiator between the people that grasp it pretty quickly, and like you said, some people struggle with it at the start?
I hate to say it, education.
Yeah.
The people who understand it and grasp it quickly have gone further with their education, formal education.
Formal education. That's interesting.
Formal education, because they are open to learning. Whereas somebody who's kind of dropped out of school, similar to myself, or didn't go down that route, and they made it, done something for themselves, like I know best.
Yeah.
So that's the differentiator. So I've shit on fucking people who've gone into university before, but long term, they're actually easier to coach and easier to get a result out of.
That's interesting.
It is interesting, because previously I was like, formal education, bullshit, whatever. But the more, I'm not going to say intelligent, because intelligence is completely different, but the more educated they are, the more open-minded they are to certain things.
I think I didn't really learn much at university. To be fair, I didn't really take it very seriously. But one thing it did give me, and this is real woo-woo, is like life experience of moving out a completely different city at just turned 19 years old, having to fend for yourself, being basically somebody going, you want to make the decisions?
There you go.
Like, learn fast. So yeah, maybe there's an element of that to it, again, of being open-minded to actually to realizing that you don't know everything, and you've got to learn pretty quickly.
That's really powerful. I think once you make that realization and you let your fucking ego go, that's when you can start to really develop.
Yeah.
And for a lot of guys, especially the sort of guys I work with, you know, A personality types, that's the hardest thing to kind of.
I said this to you when you were talking to me about wanting to launch this. I said this thing to you, and maybe you've seen that it's true now, is you'll get some guys that will come to you with an issue, and 2 sentences later they're bragging about something that they're doing well.
Yeah.
It's like, I really need help with this thing, but I'm doing this and I'm smashing this and I'm smashing this. It's like, sound.
We're not here for that.
In it, yeah.
Exactly. In regards to, if you could give one piece of advice to the coaches out there, one message today, what would that be?
Do the no, I'm kidding. Do the amplify.
No, but do the amplify. I'm not joking.
It would. It's actually nothing to do with the coaching, and I know that you've already covered this on, I don't know what order you're releasing these things in, but you've covered it in Maria's thing. It's figure out who the fuck you are. Like, when I got on my own mission, my clients could not wait to spend time around me. They weren't avoiding conversation. They knew that it would, again, this whole saying proximity to power when referencing myself makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. But
You have to be that beacon, though. You have to be that leader.
be the something that Paul says is be the lighthouse, not the tugboat. Is be the person that they can look and move towards, not the person that's trying to drag people through. So figure out who you are and get on your own mission. Like, not
It's attractive, innit? When somebody knows where they're going, what they want to achieve, and they're vocal about it, it's attractive.
yeah.
You
I
can
agree.
get behind it.
I agree, and it is, like I said when I said it about the circles of control thing. Some people will find that really disempowering. Fuck them. They're not your people. Don't worry about it. You're doing that. You're being the lighthouse. You're being the beacon, like you've just said. The right people will find that attractive, and they will find it empowering. So get on your own mission, whatever it is. It doesn't have to, like I said, I'm not talking about being fucking shredded. I'm talking about doing big things and getting after it, whatever that looks like for you. It's such a, as I'm saying it, I feel like it's such a shit typical like man with podcast says hustle.
Yeah.
I don't mean that. I mean, just figure out who you are. Like, it all comes to me, and this is another massive topic, is knowing what your values are.
Yeah.
When I talk about knowing who I am, it's figuring that out and then making sure, are you living in alignment with that, or are you just chatting shit?
Because otherwise there's internal conflict,
Yeah, for sure.
and you can kind of veer off, and things just don't feel right. Things don't click. Everything feels harder.
Yeah.
And I've experienced that myself. I think middle of last year, I think me and you had a conversation before I kind of made the switch. It just becomes a drag. And when it gets like that, people can sense it.
Yeah.
It's not, you haven't got that same energy. And I think what you said there is bang on. If you don't know who you are, and this is going to be a bit hard-nosed and a bit harsh, you should not be fucking coaching.
Yeah. I, to an extent, I agree. I think if you are on the path to
if you're on the
figuring
journey,
that out,
yeah, should I say, yeah.
then yeah. But I think if it's one of those things that, this might be a bit harsh, but if this is something that you fell into at 16 because you were passionate about fitness and you didn't really know anything else and you were in shape as a kid and stuff like that, and you're still at 25, 26, 30 years old, just kind of playing at it, maybe it's not for you. And that's okay
That's
too.
fine. That's fine.
That is genuinely okay, because you will have something else that you are very, very good at, and you've just got to find your thing. But I think if you are on the journey to figuring that out, or you know what that is, sick. Like, shout about it and shout more about it, because the people, again, another thing that I see, obviously I've got access to a lot of coaches now. There are certain people out there that I'm like, you're sick. Like, not just you as a coach, but you as a person. But I only know that because I know you in person, and you're not telling people, and maybe you don't want to seem like you're bragging or like you're doing yourself a disservice. But not only that, you're doing the people that you could potentially help a disservice by, you do know who you are, but for some reason you're scared to tell people.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know where that comes from.
It's judgment in it. And it's that fear of failure that people have. I think everyone struggles to, but I think the people who do really well in anything is they feel that fear and do fucking anyway.
Yeah.
You know, so the fear doesn't go away. It never goes away. You're always going to feel that's how you respond to it, essentially. I'm going to have to wrap things up. I could carry on all fucking day. Where can people find you?
Instagram, at Lewis Potts Official. At Lewis Potts, again, I don't think I'm anything big, but at Lewis Potts is a videographer and he's got a massive following, so I couldn't have that Instagram handle. At Lewis Potts Official, that's pretty much it. If you are a coach and you want to get involved, I've got a free group where I talk about this shit all the time. Give me a message and that's pretty much it.
Sick. That was sick.
Mate,
I fucking
really
enjoyed
enjoyed
that. Make sure you like and sub to the channel as always. Catch you next time. Peace.